You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Welcome back to I Am Refocused Radio. Again, we are here today and we have a special guest today, talking to Suzanne Roberts. Go to her website, Unifying Solutions. She's the visionary founder of Unifying Solutions. You go to the website, unifyingsolutions.com. A transformational speaker, facilitator, and author with over 4 decades of experience guiding leaders and organizations towards sustainable systemic change. She has an upcoming book and documentary, It's Deeper Than That, Pathway to Vibrant, Purposeful Life. It's premiering in October 2025. We're going to get into those details as well. Last but not least, it's a lot more on her resume, so you need to go to her website and read all about it. But just to wrap things up before I introduce her, she is also here to share her wisdom on moving from disconnection to wholeness and what it means to actually design a more humane future. So without further ado, I want to say thank you for being on the show today. How are you doing?
And I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Doing awesome.
When I was young, I experienced childhood trauma. And when I learned that we are given this incredible gift of life and that we are already whole and holy, we don't have to create our wholeness or our holiness. I had that deep within me since I was 20 years old. And then working with leaders and teams and organizations, I also built a passion for looking at if this energy is in everyone and everything, how come our social systems don't reflect that? And how come our organizations don't reflect that? So I started bringing in a different kind of thinking lens in terms of how to shift a perspective about human development and social development, and basing it more on this great reconnection to our deepest self. You could say our soul, or whatever you want to call this living energy that's inside of us, and helping that shape leaders and organizations and communities and cultures to become more humane, more equitable, and more loving, I would say.
You also speak about reclaiming our inner capacity. When it comes to that, what does that actually look like in your own life on a daily basis?
For me, I have a way of, whether you call it sitting in prayer or stillness, to get myself aligned with I believe that there's a source of life that gives life to all of creation, and whatever you want to call it. I know there's so many different ways people address that, but that source of life gives me and everyone the gift of life. And I like to be in communion within myself, the energy that's inside of me that lets my heart beat, that lets me breathe, is, I call it my soul current, because once that leaves the body, we call it death. And so I want to take some time every day to be in my own inner sanctuary in some type of communion, to be resourced by that power and by that energy within me. And that changes how I am within myself and with everyone I interact with.
Once again, listen, Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to Suzanne Roberts. Go to her website, unifyingsolutions.com. My next question is, when you think about the topic of self-renewing energy source within us, how can someone recognize that? And also, what are some maybe first steps in accessing it in life?
I think that's great. I think, first of all, there's so many people that are out there hustling, improving, and exhausting themselves. And I say, for what and for who? And how are we socialized into that hustle culture and grind? And when I think about, I'm a science person, so I like to think, how does energy actually operate, or how does energy move? If there's a source of life for all of creation, how does that move inside each of us? And it has to move within polarities. Energies have to move from a positive pole to a negative pole. And we could say that our soul is our positive pole, and our soul is a drop of that eternal ocean of love. whatever you want to call that primary source. And then our body or the material world is the negative pole, and energy is meant to run through. The material world is not meant as our destination. Our remembering and homecoming to our deepest self, or our soul currency, is, I believe, what we're designed for. And as that energy moves from pole to pole inside of us, it's a current that's running all the time. We cannot breathe without that current running inside of us. So if we can tune inward, there's an energy movement inside of us that's given to us by the source of life for all of creation. It's residing inside of us. If we can tune inward, we can be restored and renewed over and over and over again. And why not? Then I believe we have a deeper kind of listening inside. We're kinder to ourselves, kinder to each other. What hurts me hurts you. We reduce harm. It's just a whole ecosystem of a way of being by tuning in to this self-renewing energy inside that is really honestly giving you the very gift of your own life. You can't breathe without it. And I think we don't pay attention to the very thing that's giving us life. We pay attention to what we produce in the world, or who we are in the world, or what people think about us, or whatever any of those things could be. Meanwhile, there's a pulsing energy inside of you happening all the time, calling you home to yourself over and over again. What are you listening to? The outside, the inside.
When you think about trauma, that is something that can affect people in many ways. It can hinder them from making progress. It can have them have certain limitations in how they perceive the world. How can the body and energy system become pathways for healing rather than a place of pain?
That's such a beautiful question. First of all, I believe trauma is digestible, or we wouldn't be here. Think about, slavery. How could people still be here after slavery, which is a huge trauma, and yet people are still here, right? Generations later living. So there's a way I'm not saying that trauma has been digested. I'm just using that as a trauma. But here's the thing though, trauma can be digested. It's not the truth of who we are. It's an experience, but it isn't the truth of who we are. What we have to look at is what do we have in our minds that are still associated with the trauma, that are limiting beliefs. And those limiting beliefs end up hurting us after the experience is over. So what we need to do is, first of all, be held. If we try to hold our trauma with trauma, we just end up stuck in trauma. But if we say, okay, these horrible things happened to me, yes, they did. And there's also this holy energy inside of me that can hold the trauma and help digest it and tell me the truth of who I am. So my trauma isn't telling me the truth of who I am. For me, my mind, I experienced childhood sexual abuse with my father, and I just believed I was a horrible person, that I should die, that I should sacrifice myself. And after it was over, I was still living with that mindset, and I was then hurting me. And it was the holiness of what's inside of me that helped me see that my mind was stuck in a groove around the trauma, but it wasn't the only part of me, that there's way more than me. And then I could correct my mind to be led by the wholeness and holiness that's inside of me.
With your experience working with Fortune 500 companies and cultural institutions, from the leadership lens, what is a common common disconnection that you see with leaders, and how can they bridge those gaps?
I talked about the hustle culture, or if we're disconnected from our own humanity, or we're disconnected from the fact that we're interconnected, then we are, I would say, relatively numb, and we can become sedated to the impact we're having, or the the way we're treating people within an organization and only looking at results and not looking that we're human beings together, and the kind of pressure we put for perfection when perfection is not attainable, then we're not allowing growth and evolution and really leading with humanity. And if we're also not checking our preferences about who we think has value and doesn't have value, we will overlook talent. We will disregard people's opinions. We will not allow like a true living system to come together that exists with great diversity, I would say. And I would say that and also people at the top, if their nervous systems aren't regulated, the whole organization feels that pressure from the top down. So without a nervous system that has a centered kind of presence, it's a problem. I know that Forbes says that 66% of the workforce is experiencing burnout. And think about what that means, how much time of the day people are coming in with burnout. And then they're not resourced and they're not happy at work and they're exhausted. And that is, I don't believe that's how we're meant to live. I don't. And I've also been brought, as a white person, I've also done anti-racism work in organizations with 2 Black women. And I have been brought into the C-suite level because the white senior executives weren't able to hear about how does white supremacy operate and how does systemic racism operate. And so I've been able to go in and help people depersonalize as a white person, but look at how does the system operate that creates oppression and domination and perfection and all kinds of things that don't really let people thrive. And if we look at forests, what makes forests healthy is the biodiversity within a forest and a shared thriving. And that's what we have to work towards building. And it's possible. I know it's possible.
Once again, listen to Refocused Radio and watching us online. Talking to Suzanne Roberts. Go to her website, UnifyingSolutions.com. I know I fumbled the word earlier, but Polarity System Design is what I was trying to get out earlier. I know that you're getting ready for the project in October, the Great Reconnection that's launching in the fall. What would you say you hope that leaders will be able to walk away with after experiencing your project?
Thank you for asking. It's the signature program, the Great Reconnection, the soul of leadership. What I want leaders to do is have access to stillness inside of them and to be able to make contact with their deepest selves, which is where I feel like our deepest knowledge resides, that they learn how to live with a regulated nervous system, and that they are able to look at what is their mind doing. Like, is their mind leading them from constructs that they've gotten from social systems, or is, what they think leadership is or how it should be? Are they producing a hustle culture or living by perfection, or are they supporting imperfection with accountability that can help people grow? And are they treating themselves that way? So it's a whole ecosystem of a great reconnection to our deepest self, that self-renewing energy, the regulated nervous system, the deeper listening, increasing our humanity, and being able to humanize across difference without sanitizing oppression, not pretending that it doesn't exist. And it's a whole different way of leading. And I have my first cohort coming together for this project, and I'm very excited. There's people coming from all over the country, and part of it's in person, and then part of it's going to be on Zoom. So
when you think about mindset and transformation, many people, they struggle with the inner voice as a harsh critic. How can we shift from that mindset into becoming our own ally instead of our own enemy?
I think first of all is to appreciate that your mindset became that way for a good reason. It was trying to help you survive. So I don't think you want to go get rid of it or I'm mad at it, because it just makes it hold on stronger. It got designed for a reason, but it's not the truth. So I say, hold it in your hand, let it be there. Don't try to get rid of it. And then start telling yourself the truth. If the truth is that your soul is a drop of the eternal ocean of love, or whatever you want to call it, if that is the essence of your soul and you're already whole and holy, how would that part of you talk to your mind? And then we need 300 repetitions for it to get ingrained in our mind. So maybe make a recording about what the truth is, and then listen to it 300 times until that groove gets created in our minds, because our minds are going to repeat. So we have to decide, what is it that we want our minds to repeat? Do you want it to repeat to us the truth or the lies? So that's how it shifts.
When you think about principle and how that can apply to someone's North Star in life, based on your experience working with leaders, was maybe a common thread that you see in the value of having principles?
I think as human beings, we are the only form that I know of that can make decisions with a moral imperative. Animals make choices, but we can consider a moral imperative. And I believe that moral imperative is already inside of us, deep inside. It's not like we have to create it, but when we can experience that current that's inside of us, it guides us with a moral imperative. And I think if we don't get guided, but with a North Star of a moral imperative that's connected, not an imposed moral imperative, but a holy moral imperative about how we're meant to treat ourselves and each other, we need those kind of principles to question, what are our biases? What are our tendencies? How do we react versus respond? We actually have choice. And I think we don't use our choice enough. We are so busy, we go on autopilot and habit and just keep churning without pausing and reflecting and considering, and then choosing, what do you want to be guided by? And I think having moral imperatives and principles that are life-giving instead of life-taking are crucial in these times moving forward.
People study their habits. A lot of it stems from life experiences and what they maybe went through younger or, just recent experience. How do you see people understanding the true healing process of overcoming certain things that might be holding them back still today?
I think everyone has to reach a threshold. The thing that has been causing them suffering is now costing them too much. And they're longing for something else. If you don't long for something else, or don't have a taste that there's something else or something more, why change? And there has to be a cost to the ways that you might be stuck by your trauma or by your history. And I think we all have to have a taste of that something more, whether it's looking at a beautiful sunset and all of a sudden having a state of awe, or a moment in prayer, or petting your animal can be a moment of great beauty. Anything can evoke it. And if we start to have a little bit more of those moments, then those are greater than our history and the impacts of our history. And then we start longing for more of that. And all of that already resides within us. It's already been given to us. It's in there. If we have too many layers, it's like having the clouds over the sun for too long, but the sun is still there. Right? So if we can get a little bit of knowledge and faith with the sun, and then we seek the sun more than our history, it begins to shift for us. I'm living proof of it.
Once again, listen to Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today, Suzanne Roberts. Go to her website, UnifyingSolutions.com. When you think about your documentary that's coming up the upcoming book and documentary is deeper than that. Pathway to a Vibrant, Purposeful Life. Everyone has potential, but living up to that potential is another situation. On your experience, what do you believe separates someone from living up to the hype versus someone who falls flat?
I just think that we're all afraid in a certain kind of way, and yet we're called at the same time. And letting the calling be greater than the fear and take action even when you're scared. I think what happens is people get scared and they get immobilized. And once you're immobilized, you stop taking action. When you stop taking action, you stop seeing possibilities. And then your mind confirms, see, it didn't work, but you didn't really make the action really, or stick with it. There is something about sticking with it, even when it isn't fun or when it's hard. And it's just that there's something greater calling. Like, I don't really love like getting on a stage. That's not something I get excited about. But I've had this calling about reducing racial harm in the world. And so I joined James A. White. You can look him up. He's amazing. He has a TED Talk. He's a Black man. He's in his 80s now, but we did for many years a safe conversation about race. And we'd have 150 to 200 people, come to hear us. And I'm like this, white woman talking about white supremacy and race in the community. And it's like very exposing and not a popular topic, would say, but I just felt like I was made a certain way and I had so much passion for it. I overcame being in front of people. And so I guess what I would say is if you can tune into the thing that's calling you, that's like you would regret going to your grave without doing, then just find small steps to start taking action, and don't wait till you're comfortable. You'll be waiting forever if you're waiting for that moment. Just do it afraid and trust that you're being guided. If you're being called, you're being guided, you're being asked. That's how I feel. It's like, if I'm being asked, I didn't decide I wanted to talk about race. I felt like I got told to talk about race, and I'm going to listen and act. So I don't know if what you think of that, but that's what works for me.
Acting is the only medicine to the pain, in my opinion, because the pain never stops if you don't move.
Yeah.
And as soon as you make a decision to actually get up and do something about whatever it is you're moping about, nothing really changed until you actually get up. And the longer you stay, the worse it gets.
Totally. And you don't have to be comfortable getting up or excited about it, just get up.
Once again, listen, I'm Refocused Radio, watching us online, talking to Suzanne Roberts. Go to her website, Unifying Solutions. Also, before I start, I heard you have a little nice opportunity for our listeners. If you can, share that website link and how they can find out more information about it.
Absolutely. If you go to my website, you can, on the front page, unifyingsolutions.com, you can click on Get Started. It's a way for you to have a 30-minute session with me to talk about whatever you want to talk about. And also, if you go to the top of the website, it'll say Book Portal. Click on it.
Once again, listen to Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest, Suzanne Roberts. Like always, want to say to you, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me here.